welcome back to another episode of There's Danger Here. I'm Leilani, and since we're in October, of course I'm going to do a slightly spooky episode. So let's get into some haunted hotels. It seems as though almost every historic hotel has a haunting or two attached to it. They are hotbeds for paranormal activity, scaring and exciting the living guests who come for their own experiences. Since it's October, a time touted as spooky season, I thought it'd be fun to take a break from murder and mayhem and talk about the spooky, especially after the heavy case I spoke about last week. I'm going to talk about a few hotels, and as I live in the Pacific Northwest, I figured I'd start with one of the many out this way before delving into the more historic and known haunted locations, many of which are in the south or east coast of the U.S. So first, let's talk about the Heathman Hotel in Portland, Oregon. George Heathman built his first hotel in 1926, and as it was immediately successful, he began construction a block down the road, naming his newest hotel the New Heathman, and it opened up in 1927. The family ran the hotel through the passing of the patriarch until 1960, when son Harry also passed away. The remaining family then sold it, after which the hotel changed owners and names a handful of times. At one point in 1982, the then owner attempted to turn the hotel into a series of apartments. However, just a year later and into 1984, the hotel was re-renovated before again opening back up under the name the New Heathman Hotel, and it was then placed on the National Register of Historic Places. So, what about this hotel makes it haunted? Well, the origins for that are fairly unknown. A few sources report a suicide taking place within its walls, but a room number is never mentioned in the sources. Another event occurred when a patron either fell or was pushed, falling from a window of room 703. The person was rumored to have fallen into an area that has since been renovated into the now library, leading to a plethora of book movement and wall shaking to occur there as well. In 1990, a psychic entered room 703 and reported it to be the main area of activity due to the energy of the plummeting death. Threes appear to have significance within the hotel. Other hotspot areas are 803 and 1003, where temperatures plummet, and you may get the feeling of someone joining you in bed. Guests also report being tugged at in these rooms, seeing shadowy figures out of the corner of their eyes, and staff reports that even if a room is empty, there are times the doors are seemingly blocked and inaccessible, almost as if something is pressing back against the door as they attempt to enter. Yet, will be open and accessible later on, without anyone having ever come or gone. Towels are thrown around, and the television will turn on and off intermittently. Room 510 has its own haunting. Purportedly, a woman has been noted sitting in one of the chairs and crying. In one area, a large grand piano set, staff would often hear its tones chirping from the silence, only to find nobody was at the keys. The piano has since been removed from the hotel. And that's really it for this cute little hotel. The next is the Menger Hotel. The Menger Hotel was opened in 1859 in San Antonio, Texas, near the site of the Alamo, by William Menger. Menger was a successful bar owner distilling his own beer, building his hotel just adjacent to his bar, and upon its second expansion, of which it went through many expansions, an underground connection was built in order to allow him to bring over his own distilled spirits to the bar for customers to enjoy. Initial patrons included soldiers, cattlemen, and even President Theodore Roosevelt. Over the years, the tragedies grew, and so did the number of ghosts reported within the walls. Currently, there are believed to be more than 32. The first of the ghost sightings began when, In 1876, one of the maids, a Sally White, was murdered by her husband. You see, Sally had a common law husband, Harry Wheeler, who, after a fight and apparently a pretty rocky relationship throughout, threatened to kill her on March 26. Naturally, she went to the police, staying in the courthouse for the night. And when police went and searched her home and Harry for weapons, they found none. Finding none, Sally decided to go back home in the morning and collect her belongings. There, unfortunately, she found Harry waiting for her with a pistol in hand. She ran back towards the hotel, but unfortunately, Harry caught up with her and shot her twice before fleeing the scene. He was never found. She was taken to the third floor of the hotel and cared for, but ultimately succumbed to her injuries days later. Sally loved her job and was a loyal employee, and after she was killed, the hotel even paid for funeral expenses. In return, Sally can be seen walking the halls on the third floor in her uniform, often holding hotel towels as she passes by in the hallways. A death in the hotel was also that of Captain Richard King. He was a wealthy rancher who retained basically his own suite at the hotel. When he fell ill and was informed that he was not going to get any better, he checked himself into the suite to write his will and say all of his farewells. Eventually, he too succumbed to his illness and perished in the hotel on April 14th, 1885. His funeral was held in the main parlor, and a lot of people came. He's been known to be seen in the room in which he died. His suite has been renamed the, quote, King Ranch Room, end quote. Speaking of rooms, one of the most active rooms within this hotel is that of 204. Here, shadowy figures plague the space. Items are thrown and moved about the area, and noises run rampant. Other notable events were things like in 1890, when an insurance agent, H. Childers, walked up to the bar, pulled out his pistol, and shot and killed Jim Draper, a hack driver, again for reasons unknown. On September 7th, 1903, a sick male worker checked himself into the hotel. His illness isn't really spoken about in any of the sources, but whatever it was, he wasn't getting any better and, as such, ended up committing suicide by slitting his own throat. Several sources claim that Theodore Roosevelt haunts the bar within the hotel. Other paranormal events include a plethora of soldier sightings, roaming the halls, still in their uniforms, believed to be the remnants of the energy left behind by the bloody Battle of the Alamo. The Civil War aided in paranormal activity here as well. As people weren't checking in to stay, the hotel supposedly was used to aid the sick and wounded. This makeshift hospital assisted in the medical care of many at this time, some of whom, of course, didn't survive their injuries, adding to the ever-growing list of ghosts and ghost sightings. The next hotel is the Concord's Colonial Inn in Massachusetts. While the structure existed in 1716, it became a hotel first in 1889. First, named the Monument Inn, and was only partially used as a hotel. Some parts remained in storage, while other parts were designated for the home owner. Then purchased in 1988 by Jurgen Demisch and renamed the Concord's Colonial Inn shortly after. It now has 45 rooms, 15 of which are historic, and none of them are exactly alike. On to the hauntings in this hotel. This hotel was a bed of activity for the Revolutionary War in the surrounding areas. The most haunted room is that of 24 on the second floor. You see, at the time, Dr. Timothy Minot owned the inn. He used room 24 as an operating room for Patriot soldiers during the 1770s. The morgue was located in what is now room 27, which, curiously, is on the first floor. Throughout the hotel, staff and customers have reported lights and TVs turning on and off, floating orbs, voices coming from nowhere, and one older woman that roams the halls. Next is the Maryland Inn at Annapolis, Maryland. This hotel is actually one of a trio of hotels known as the Historic Inns of Annapolis, all of which are purportedly haunted, but I'm only going to talk about the one for now. Built in 1772 by Thomas Hyde, the hotel is 4 stories and contains 39 bedrooms and suites, conference rooms, and a restaurant, with each room said to come with its own ghost. Another hotel that was affected by the Revolutionary War and the War of 1812 that housed a battle in Annapolis Harbor, which was just miles from the hotel, where supposedly patrons could view the entire thing from their windows. The soldiers from both the Revolutionary War and Civil War fought around it, and while they might not have all entered the premises while they were living, their proximity alone seems to be enough for a residual haunt. People have reported seeing figures roaming the halls, smelling tobacco smoke in the dining room, having objects moved on them. There are specific haunts as well. More famously, there is known to be a group of rowdy, drunken Union soldiers. Their uniforms are often commented on, that people see the men still in them. Guests have also reported hearing disembodied singing, which, again, is likely coming from soldiers singing drunken wartime songs. The most famous ghost is known as, quote unquote, the bride, a lost spirit who is said to reside on the 4th floor. You see, the story goes, a long time ago, a woman came to Annapolis from North Carolina to celebrate her nuptials with a man known as Mr. Charles Campbell. He had sailed off to sea, hoping to earn enough money for them to buy property and settle down, and then told his fiancée to meet him at the Maryland Inn after his commission was complete, so they could finally be together. As Charles walked to the inn to greet his soon-to-be wife, a horse-pulled cart came down the hill. It was too heavy to stop and ended up crushing Charles on the cobblestone street. Of course, the bride allegedly witnessed everything going out to meet her dying man on the ground. She then ran back up to her room and paced in it for hours before eventually throwing herself from the window, landing feet from where Charles had just been. Both are said to haunt the inn. As many have reported seeing the wispy apparition of the bride pacing back and forth at the end of their bed at night, seemingly just gathering the courage to jump again. Room 405 is the room where her pacing is most often heard. Other hauntings include a woman in black, hearing children giggle and running up and down the halls. At the bar, people often feel as though they're not sitting alone, and in the back, soldiers again are known to sing shanties. And again, it seems as though every hotel has at least a few hauntings, whether it be from time and situations that tend to occur there, those that are high energy or emotions, such as dramatic fights, murders, and suicides. That energy doesn't seem to dissipate, instead, it stays within the walls. Some of the hauntings are looped, as if the last events are being played on repeat, much the same as Groundhog's Day. Though those hauntings do occur, they are not as widely known. Though house hauntings do occur, they're not as widely known and as frequent. I hope you enjoyed hearing about the history of some of the haunted hotels around the U.S. If you're an enthusiast, perhaps check into one or a few of them and let me know if you see any soldiers or women that haunt these locations. Maybe see if someone stands next to you in the mirror as you snap a photo. But keep a hold of your possessions so they don't get moved by a specter that inconveniently decides they need to be somewhere else. And as always, to all those out there listening, be careful. It's a dangerous world we live in.